days, and here we are again to the most important part of your week is, of course, the Extreme Business Set Mind series with Lee Tunney Ware and myself, Paul Rees, blasting to you some of the most powerful philosophies, insights, and enlightening moments of your week, for sure. And, you know, Lee, on the back of the vision board series we did a couple of weeks back, we've had thousands of hits and people coming in and saying, can we add a little more onto the vision board idea? Now, I don't want to intently go into the vision board idea, but what I'd like to do is today's topic, and here we go. I love this because Lee just doesn't know. He has no idea what we're going to talk about week in, week out. I mean, I don't know if I even like to be there, but this is beautiful. Here we are. So this week is, and it's a double intro year for me, okay? Do we manifest our financial success, or is it just plain hard work? And here's why I'm coming there. Everybody talks about positive manifestation or positive manifesting, positive mindset. You've got to think good to have good. You've got to think rich to be rich, and all these things. But the truth is, does that actually work, or is it just plain hard work? Because here's the thing. You rolled your sleeves up from a very early age in life. I mean, I did. I remember doing a paper round at like 8 or 9. Is that the case? Do we need both? Can we just go with one? I've heard people say, oh, the universe will bring it. The universe will bring it. Really? Is that the case? You know, we've all read the book, you know, The Secret. You know, I think The Secret is missing chunks, but hey, that's just my thought. So is it the case, both, one, the other? What's your thoughts?
I've got loads of right. And I like the book The Secret, but I do think it missed something in translation. So first of all, manifest. And Roz and I already talked about this the other day, the word manifest, because you imagine it comes from a ship's manifest. So why use that word as manifest? Why is it seen as the word? I get caught up on language sometimes. I like to know sometimes where a word comes from, or and especially a word that we utilize in our thinking or communication, and it's seen as a good word, let's say. So I haven't delved into that. I just began the journey on that word the other day. But I won't say flip it, and it's not to try and get a conversation in a specific way. It's to answer it in a way, because I think sometimes what happens in communication, so let's say the message of The Secret, when I look at it, I can see there's a lot in there that's absolutely bang on the button. Where it gets lost in translation or isn't communicated effectively, or the other side where it's perceived or thought about in perhaps a different way, or possibly the wrong way, that's down to the reader, the end user. So when you're messaging, and this was a skill, and I'm not sure if I've got it yet in a live audience. Bear in mind, the stuff we talk about here, I'm unprepared, I've got nothing. I'm just running from what's in my grey matter. Well, when I do an event or training or different things like that, I know what the stakeholders want. I know why people are buying tickets. And even then, like now, in a corporate environment, very easy, because you just got to validate what the stakeholders want. And get an end result. So the areas you're playing in, then it's down to skill set, communication, interaction, activities, and if you can, and then obviously to give some form of social proof, some form of feedback, so you know in a training environment, did they get the content? Have they got the insight? Have they conceptualized what they've learned and put it into some form of communication framework, interactive framework, strategy? Because you can track it then, see, where when you're into sort of an audience, say, and you're speaking at an event, let's say, or manifestation, for example, you don't know what the end user knows. In a corporate environment, you've got some historical data if you're working with the stakeholders. You're working with sales managers or team leaders, yeah, HR, different things, and you can find out they've got statistical data on what the problems are and possibly who the problems are, yeah, and what departments the problems. You've got a lot of data that you can work from and you can prepare from, and then you can prepare your messaging. So you're actually making it wholesome and interactive. And what you're trying to do is, I suppose, nudge people mentally where they get the concept, where they see where it's not Paul, this is actually a breakdown in my understanding or a breakdown in communication or environmental pressure, as in department pressure. And is it only showing up at a certain time and day of week or certain time and day of month when deadlines are due? Is this when the personality conflicts comes out, whatever the problem is you're dealing with? So when you're in a corporate environment doing that type of training, you've got a lot of data to look at and assess and time to think about it. In this environment, obviously, I'm working from a grey matter. When I'm doing, say, a personal development event or whatever, or let's say an event on manifestation, I haven't done one, but I've done loads of personal development stuff. And to get the message where they all hear it, universal education, communication, uplifting, mind nudging, whatever it is, to get that, and when you're in real time, is you need to be able to watch the room. And obviously, the more numbers you get, the harder. When you're working with a group of 12, I mean, I could do it in my sleep. And you can hear that arrogantly. But there was a time where I couldn't do 12. I might get 5. Yeah, and I might have a lot of questions then from the rest of the room. When those numbers go up to like a couple of hundred, or when you're speaking from a stage of like 500, 1,000 people, and you've got your speech, speech is a totally different thing, or presentation, because your speech, your presentation should give a couple of insights. You might use a 3-pillar concept. I'm going to talk about 3 things. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and like remind you of it, So with The Secret, the book of The Secret, to write a manuscript that goes out and tries to universally deliver content in a way where everybody gets it, And some people will swear by it. Some will say it's the biggest load of rubbish, and some will be so-so. Very similar to when you're working with a big audience sometimes. So I think it gets lost in translation or in the scribe.
Okay.
As in, because they're looking to whatever book, whatever training manuscript, they're looking to express an idea, a concept, and then education, stories, interactions for you to conceptualize that framework. That's one part. Then you've got to put that into feelings, thoughts, images in your being, and then you've got to put that into words and interactions and communications outside your being. So if you looked at it from reading one book, like The Secret, that one book would be enough. Then once we knew how to read, I mean, one book would serve you for life.
I hear you. Let me
go on.
But use a thought with this. So we could say some of the most successful people in business world would say, roll your sleeves up is hard work. Then you get some of the most successful people in the business world say, my mindset, my ability to think positively is what created my business. But also I have a kind of double-edged sword on this thought, which is, if we are having to positively manifest, are we camouflaging doubt?
Good question. And this is where I suppose in my head or in my world, when I say my world, my skin in, this is where I suppose I had to look at things in my world differently. Because one of us with dyslexia wouldn't have the general run-of-the-mill everyday education. I look for gaps in information. and I try to fill them because I imagine, and a lot of people verify it. I can conceptualize what people are saying very quickly, and that's inside me. If I'm in the business world, or I need to take that outside of me into an interaction or communication, then I have to, one, put it together where I can manifest the language, to manifest the concept in someone else, to create the actions and interactions that they're going to have because of that. So if we break it down, you mentioned the word doubt. See, doubt to me, and this isn't from my education as in what I've read, or this is Lee Tunnyware's concept of the world. Yeah. Doubt would fall in left brain, and as in thinking. So the way I navigate my internal world, if I don't know something, then I need to learn something.
Yeah.
I can learn it by going through pages and pages and pages and pages, or I can conceptualize who's the expert in that area. Now, I mightn't have the funds or the connections to get to the top expert. So I will look for in the early days when I didn't have, let's say, the reputation I've got now or the money I've got now, I would have to go to my nearest expert, maybe in my community, and either find a win-win, a collaborative approach if I couldn't afford to utilize that expert, because now I'm looking for knowledge. I'm looking for data. Are you with me?
Yes.
So, because it's doubt. Yeah. Now, doubt has two parts, because doubt is it's not the awareness I don't know something. It's the consequences of not knowing it. That's what doubt is.
Wow, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. That I'm in doubt and I'm seeing the world or the future differently. Now, whether, and this is,
so doubtly is actually an insight to know something.
Well, it depends, and this is where I think the secret comes in. You've got to go for it's the Goldilocks scenario, yeah? Too hot, too cold, just right. When you've got that doubt, and that's left brain, that's information, that means you should be either the information doesn't exist or you're not privy to it. So, I mean, with libraries, you can walk into a library and you can spend an hour or two and just flick, like, what's the subject? Now go and learn it. Now, if there's a lot of consequences to that data, like tax or a court case or a business contract, yeah, it doesn't matter how much you learn, you won't have enough. You won't be able to get enough data to put a concept together where you're in certainty. Certainty is the opposite to doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem is with doubt is it cross-pollinates into what, because I say there's 5 modalities. It cross-pollinates. Now, and there's a combination to it, but it's the combination, yeah, so you've got this combination look. If you feel certain in your body, yeah, as in your biological being, that's one of the modalities. So your body feels comfortable. It's not in stress. It's not like feeling fear, yeah, because to be in stress is in the now, yeah. To be in fear is in the now. However, stress is in the now, as in I'm feeling it in the now, and I'm under stress in the now. So, for example, you've got a piece of timber jammed under the side of a lorry, yeah, and you want to leverage the lorry up. So you've got this big block underneath, you put the wood down on an angle, you're lifting the lorry, and you're pushing down on the timber to lift the lorry. You've got big timber, big lorry, and you're using leverage. The more you push down, the more the timber's under stress.
Yeah.
So hard work is physical. Rolling your sleeves up is the physical. Now, depending on how fast you can work and the quality of your work and your ability to communicate, which is left brain, to communicate, yeah, because work falls into an hourly rate. So if you're a blacksmith, yeah, let's go back. You sell, Paul sells steel, a bar of steel, block of steel, yeah, length of an RSJ, like as in 20 foot of steel. The steel has a certain value, yeah. So when that steel is transformed into something else, as in hinges, yeah, or horseshoes, or bolts or screws, whatever they're transformed into, the steel turns into a different value because of skill and work. But I take the steel, which is a raw material, I convert it into something else, a hinge or hinges or a spring for a lorry, whatever. That spring then has a value. I've got the raw material value and I've got the skill value put together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I go, well, it took me 2 hours to make this spring. The raw materials cost £10. My hourly rate is 20. Yeah. So now the spring is worth £50. It's not, it owes £50.
Let's see.
And now I have to get a profit on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't get a profit on it, I'm made myself a wage. I haven't made myself a business. So hard work, working 8 hours a day, yeah, sweating, yeah, nothing wrong with that. But that is an hourly rate pay, and you will never be successful. And it's very easy to quantify your success. How much do you get paid an hour? How many hours do you work a day? How many days a week are you going to work? How much time have you got between now and when you retire? Now you know your whole income if you stay busy for the 8 hours a day.
So are we saying that when you are using, we could say, universal attraction, manifest, using the mind, that falls into or merges in with a skill factor that creates a product that then has a value?
No. That I'm just saying in the physical work side, that's where physical work's in, because it's a combination, yeah. So it don't matter how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trading time for money, what's the most the average human being can charge? I mean, would you expect to give Elon Musk 20 quid an hour? Mm-hmm. Same time. Mm-hmm. What's going to be the difference? The output. He can't move timber quicker than you can. He can't drive a car like how can I explain it to you? If you're a taxi driver, how many people can you pick up and drop off in an hour? Yeah. If you get an airport run, you might stay consistent for the hour, which means you've got no downtime. So your earning potential is high. But whatever you charge to go from London to Heathrow, yeah, is whatever you charge. And if you were just on airport runs, bear in mind you've got the return trip. So you say, well, I've got 50 quid to go to central London to Heathrow. Take your fuel out. Let's say you got 50 quid profit. You still got the return trip, which means you haven't got 50 quid profit because now you've got to do the hour trip back, which you're not getting paid for. Right. So to get it right is this, see? If you think badly or feel badly or imagine yourself badly, so for instance, poor self-image, hear the language, yeah? I have self-doubt, hear the language. I'm not motivated, hear the language. I don't feel confident in myself, hear the language. I'm not proud of myself, hear the language. And it's in recording. Go back to those 5 things. They're all 5 different categories.
Oh, wow.
And if we haven't got the self-awareness to know which category is out of sync, mm-hmm. we can never open the combination of the lock. So if I'm in doubt or I'm uncertain, that's left brain. If I can't see a way ahead and there's fog and I haven't got a clear vision, that's right brain. If I'm not motivated, motor is action, it's movement. Mm-hmm. That's biology. If I'm not happy or I'm not pleased, I'm not if I haven't got the emotional energy behind it. See, happy is an emotion. If I'm not proud or inspired or in passion, that's spirit. So when I say, yeah, so for instance, I've got it all worked out, yeah, because the secret is 5 modalities. Because A lot of people talk about a positive mindset
Mhm.
or positive and negative thoughts as if that's the answer. No,
Yeah.
that's just the thoughts. What about the vision? What about the emotion? What about the passion, as in the spirit? What about the actions, the biology? Yeah, it's not a yin and yang. And that's the way we've broken the world up, night and day, good and evil. It's not a yin and yang, as in either or. So if I'm not in what I want, then I'm in what I don't want. If I haven't got heads, I've got tails. If it's not tails, then it's heads. But we don't go through life in a head and tail principle. We go through life, even when we're in the positive can be the negative because now we want more. And then we're utilizing goals. When we go to manifest, and this is the important part, when we go to manifest and we pick our goals, we're going to pick our goals within the limits of who we think we are, which means we've just calibrated us and manifested the potential, but also the ceiling of the potential.
Wow. Oh my word. That makes so much sense.
And as soon as we put time into the calibration, time becomes the calibration because time is the reference. So I'm going to do X in 5 years. In 5 years, I'm going to have a company that's earning $1 million a year. Yeah. So a good coach or somebody, bear in mind, a performance coach, not a life coach, not a business coach, not a consultant. It's a good performance coach. Yeah. And a performance coach works with high achievers. That's what I would class myself as, a performance coach. Is when somebody, and you, because my job is for them to manifest, but also to write their manifest. You see, when we write our goals down, for example, which is one of the tools we're supposed to use, that's only for left brain consciousness. I've written my goals down. To recite your goals, still left brain consciousness. And you go, oh, how do you mean, Lee? Well, where's the actions to go with them? Where's the vision to go with them? Where's the emotion to go with them? Where's the passion to go with them? If you're just writing your goals down and some would just say you need to put the emotion with it. No. And then when we're writing these goals down, normally we're writing them down from a place of lack.
Yes.
So when we're writing them down from a place of lack, we're organizing our thoughts because that's what writing your goals is down. Yeah, and it also gets it from inside of you to outside of you, so you can reference it, so you can see it, a bit like the vision board. If you're in the court of life, have you got any evidence yet? I've got my goals here, Your Honor. Yeah, that's the first part of reference. Can you see them outside of you? Oh, I can read them. Oh no, reading is consciousness, left brain. How have you prepared your goals for your vision so you can actually see it and manifest it in your imagination? Because if you can't see it and you are the guided operating system of your life, you are the head top computer, and you've got to have a clear compass, clear vision, clear longitude and latitude at the speed you want to travel. Now, you might want to travel on the 8-hour speed route, sleeves rolled up and working at that speed. I prefer to go at the speed of light. Yeah, and how do you mean the speed of light? Yeah, I don't want nothing in the real world holding me back. I don't want nothing in other people's imaginations or thoughts or feelings holding me back. So if I'm going to communicate my goals, I'm not going to do them on my own. See, and this is when we roll our sleeves up, we're in the I part. Manifestation does not come from the I part, as in the I, the me. Mm-hmm. Manifestation comes from the we and the us.
Wow. Let me jump in there, because here's the thing. So let's say I'm getting up every morning and the first thing I say to myself is, every day in every way I am more successful. Every day in every way
that comes from a doctor who it was every day and every way I'm getting better and better. He done I forget the name of the doctor. He done a thing and it works. It works.
Will that work? Because, or am I just taking the steroids and not going to the gym?
Yeah. Well, that's right.
All I'm doing then is I'm telling my, before I get up, or am I putting myself in a positive place, or am I actually self-medicating?
Well, if you're not putting any actions with it, mm-hmm. or any communications, the action doesn't necessarily need movement. Movement is in the physical world. Mm-hmm. Movement can be referenced. some would see manifestation as it's going to appear. But manifestation in the world, the way I know it, and I'm sure it has many different forms, so I'm not trying to categorize it. It comes from a few words consistently over time. It comes from a clear vision inside you and the ability to communicate to either one or two or an audience, where the audience can conceptualize and see the vision, or where you're saying 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, and they conceptualize 10. They put it together. Because when we try to educate our vision, explain our vision, we're actually creating the friction against manifestation.
Wow, that's deep. How is that?
Because when we're in explanation, explaining, we're in the proof, trying to prove ourselves to another human for them to validate us. And then when we get that validation, we feel then that they get it and they understand us and they believe in us. And then we move out of the I into the we. Now it becomes 2 or 3 or 4. But when we're in the convinced mode, we've already thought or imagined or believed, or they've expressed that they don't get our concept, which means when other people know your dreams and they actually get involved in them, as in listening out for stuff, or do you know there's a factory available down the road? So I'll give you a very good example of it in real time. I was on with a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, and this is an absolutely true story. I don't want to mention his name, and that's not to hide it, but this story is absolutely true, and it involves a few people, but it's still in the workings. And a friend of mine in my network, in one of my paid groups, but also who's a very good friend of our family, and you do know him, he actually put a message in the group that we're in last night about your client video, when the testimonial, So I'm just seeing it was him, and just see, and I'll tell you, I think it's the last one to put the message on, and that you would know then, is it? No, it wasn't actually. I thought he commented on it. It must be in another group. Okay. Well, anyway, he said to me about somebody who's in his network, who's doing markets with food and produce. Now, he asked me would I have a chat with this person, and I said yes. And as a favour to him, I don't know this person. Bear in mind that. That's a very key part. I don't know this person. But this person had a dream of running their own restaurant. Not necessarily owning their own restaurant, but running their own restaurant. And it put a lot of things into place and even went to get the restaurant, but the deal went south. And she's just telling me a story, a past story. See, a story has to have happened first. That's why a story becomes history.
Wow.
Yeah, it's normally his story, but it can be her story too, but they haven't got a word for her history, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But she's telling me the story, and she's telling me to justify where she is. That's all. We're just having a conversation. I said, all right. I said, if I could get you a restaurant, I said, literally, probably just down the road from where you were trying to get that restaurant, when could you be ready to go? She said, well, how do you mean? I said, could you be ready to go in a week? Well, what? Fortnight? Now it's getting very real. And I'm only asking a question.
Yeah.
And she said, the end of the month. I said, and would you be able to get staff, this? She said, yes. I said, brilliant. And I made a message in real time. And now we had a meeting Saturday, which, only a couple of days ago. And we're already in talks with another place a board, a committee, to get this person in to run a restaurant that's already got a clientele surrounding it, their own foot traffic of about 2,000 a month, 2,000 people.
Wow.
But they had a problem with the person that was running the restaurant, as in with the franchise. And there was a glitch, and now the restaurant's sitting empty, and they want to get the restaurant sorted. She wants to get a restaurant. It's a win-win if we can put it together right.
Mm-hmm.
So if she didn't communicate to me, and she hadn't communicated to my mate, I just asked the question. She told him her story, her past, and was telling me, I feel a bit low at the minute, blah, 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 because of her past. Well, yeah, I'm not interested in that. How's that going to help me help you?
Mm-hmm.
I can buy into the sympathy of it and manifest, oh, poor woman, I mean, it's no fit state to do anything, blah, 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 because when we communicate, now, I'm not saying lie, she was being very authentic, but she was being very authentic without any future. She was being very authentic in her feelings,
mm-hmm.
but at the same time, what she was communicating to me was her future, even though she was communicating to me in her present. When we feel these feelings, or when we have these doubts that have feelings behind them,
mm-hmm.
that's our future. And we think it isn't. When we communicate, say, for example, yeah, and you're right, Paul, yeah, I'm not feeling too, yeah, I'm all right, Lee, yeah, I'm just trying to work things out. Work things out is left brain. And I just haven't got a handle on it yet, and I'm not quite sure what to do. So you can't get into action because you can't work it out, and
mm-hmm.
you can't see a way forward. How can anybody help you? How can anybody help you when you can't even help yourself? And what you're really saying is, I don't know what tomorrow or the next day is going to bring in line with what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're feeling low or down, yeah, then what we're actually feeling is our future.
Wow.
Or we're actually feeling our past. So if we're in our past, as in Paul done something to me and I'm really hurt, which happens in life, I'm not putting down. So I'll translate that for you. I'm in the energy of an action or interaction that happened to me, and that is keeping me in stasis in the past. I've time encapsulated my ability, my energy, my thoughts, my imagination. Now, if I'm working my way out of that time encapsulation of the negative, now I'm in resilience and grit. Am I in resilience and grit because my true essence wants to be validated by my family and by my friends, because I want them to see how resilient and grateful I am, so they can say, oh, he came out of the pit. He shouldn't have come out of the pit. He's a champion. If I'm looking for the people to see me as a champion, then I have to manifest the experiences that validate me in the real world as a champion.
Wow.
So we have to be very careful what we want, because I want to show the world that I'm made of sterner stuff. All right, then I can guarantee you now, if you're in the five, if you're in left brain, as in consciousness, and right brain, imagination and emotion and gut, physical and spirit, if your energy is aligned around that goal, you are going to manifest all the challenges for you to be seen, to be validated before you have success.
Wow. Wow. That is so
this is why I don't like books about grit and resilience, because if you think you need resilience, then you programmed, you're actually planning to have a villain and life show up as a storm for you to, the mountain's coming, and you've got to dig in. That's sleepless nights, early mornings. That's pain, because you've got to have the pain, Paul, haven't you, to get the gain, haven't you? And you've got to hear it in our language. You've got to have the pain to get the gain. Now, I'd much prefer to have no pain than have the gain.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about hard work, as in physical work, I've got nothing wrong against hard work. Many a day, I mean, I've probably lost half a stone with sweat working. But that's commitment to success. However, I've worked hard for you, Paul, and you give me an hourly rate. I've never lived that life. I've never, ever, ever had a job. in my entire life. I've never had a job. So I don't know how to trade time for money.
Wow.
Nor have I ever traded time for money. I've took my time and I've combined it with some skills, put it into a product or a service or whatever. And I've worked really hard until I worked out that that was only one segment of success. Physical work is only one segment. Communication is another segment. Aligning hearts and minds. If I'm in the resilience grit, I've already decided that most people are going to show up in my life with a bit of an edge and I've got to push past them. That's defense communication. That's me trying to prove myself, convince myself, justify myself, which means I've already decided the outside world, they're a bunch of idiots and going to make my life.
Yeah.
Where if I can be wholesome and realize where people are as where people are, they're not toxic. All this toxic and these biases, we think towards them. No, they're the obstacles to our success. I done a quote yesterday, the sting of perfectionism, basically disguised as procrastination. Yeah, because perfectionism is the disguise for failure. And failure is the emotion as in our heart, the emotional feeling we're in. Failure is the physical feeling we're in, or failure is the spiritual feeling we're in. So if we get anywhere near a sense of failure when we look or imagine in our future, and we see that as an obstacle, and we see that as, oh my God, and it's all drama, yeah, no, you're looking at the data the wrong way. You have to look at those feelings. That's data. Yeah. That isn't reality. When you're in worry, worry is a negative goal. When you're in concern, concern is a negative goal. You're in the yang of the manifestation. You're actually manifesting what you don't want.
Wow.
Worry is negative manifestation. Concern is negative manifestation. However, if you see it as radar data, and you're a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 10 weeks out, now that's you imagining it. Now, if somebody says something to you, as in, well, Paul, you won't be doing that because I'm going to do this, they're actually telling how their future and their actions are going to get in your way. Now, you can do that as a conflict, right? Sleeves up, where's my boxing gloves? And now I've got to beat Paul to get past it. But that's how we talk about it, see? I've got to beat my competition. I ain't got no competition. I don't want to beat anybody, and I don't want anybody to beat me. So I'm not going to go into that reality. So if Paul shows up and says, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this, you can't do that. All right, mate. Yeah, and now Paul's in the resilience path, and he needs to fight. Then he's just chosen me as an opponent. I don't want to be a fighter. Paul wants to feel that he's beaten me so he can be successful. Hang about, mate. What have I done? I thought we were mates. Don't give me that. And this is the problem with the resilience and grit. We've already decided we're going to have conflicts in our future because, and we don't get what we're manifesting. And then even worse, when we start to talk to the general marketplace, the audience, the world over, they'll tell you, well, that's how it is. You got to reach summit.
Wow.
You got to dig in. Why do I have to dig in? I mean, dig in, you know what the term dig in means? It means we're in the trenches. It means we're on the firing line. Got to be very careful of our metaphors because our metaphors are our manifestations of our futures.
Lead anywhere. We could do, like, I think we're going to do a 10 series podcast purely on manifest and how you do that correctly in your life. And that's going to come, viewers, trust me, that's going to come. Watch out for that possibly next year, because we are going to be doing a ton of Lead Anywhere modules that you'll be able to purchase and you'll be able to use in your life. That's going to happen in the next couple of months. We are tentatively kind of putting things together.
In 30 seconds, before you go, because I know we both got to go. Your past is actually your encyclopedia of life. So when you pick your goals, don't pick them from a place of lack, or when you pick what you want your future to be, because goals really aren't the outcome. They're just stepping stones to get the outcome. Go into your past and write down all the positive feelings. physical, emotional, and spiritual feelings.
Mhm.
And then in your past, write down all your positive memories, draw them out, sketch them out, write the stories of the positive memories on your page. So you're certain about these positive memories are in my past, because we've all got positive memories, even if we've had trauma and drama in life. We have got some positive memories. They might be the best ones, but they're the ones we've got. Start there and start with not what I want. I want a car, I want a house. I want better feelings than that. I want to feel more motivated than that feeling. And I want to feel as happy or happier than that. I want to feel as excited as that. And then with that, once you know the feelings you want on the inside, because that's manifestation on the inside, then what actions am I going to do on the outside to make sure I've got those feelings in my life all the time? Who am I going to put in my life that gives me those feelings? And bear in mind, no human being is perfect, which means they're going to show up in the shadows of the day sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it just means they're having a bad day. Doesn't mean they're toxic.
Wow.
Whether that helps, I don't know.
Lee, absolutely beautiful. Again, viewers, you know what to do. Subscribe, comment, like. I mean, do put your comments in here, because Lee always get back. I always get back there. You'll find Mr. Tunnyware all over LinkedIn, all over Google. Just put it in there. You'll see his handsome face all over media, that's for sure. Until this time next week, have an amazing week. Understand the power of manifestation and what it does for you. Lee, thank you. I love you to bits.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye for now.